You know my name.
Every move electric, every moment real. Dick Craig's not just rock and roll. It's comedy, chaos, heart and soul. From cable screens to center stage control, you never know what's coming. Not just rock and roll. Drumsticks flying, pounding like a war. Meaner skins in the tri-state begging for more. Then he grabs the mic, steals the show. Fashion wild, punchlines cold. Crowds are up when he hits that grin. You came for the music, now you're locked in. From backstage laughs to the front row heat. He makes the funny with a heavy beat. Craig's not just rock and roll. It's fire on wheels and losing control. Lights, laughs, danger taking its toll. You better hang on tight, not just rock and roll. By the 80s nights, the jokes hit hard. Master of ceremonies dealt every card. On concerts, fundraisers, wrestling rings. Women throwing body slams, hear the crowd scream. Then summer 85 changed the game. Cable TV called, lit the flame. Half an hour weekly, themes collide. Bands, comedians, sports, small town pride. From local legends to underground sound, anything goes when Dick's around. Rockin', racing, engines scream, burning rubber, adrenaline dreams. Micro stocks flying, derby cars crash. Pure insanity on a cable TV flash. Wrestled a bear, 600 pounds strong. First damn episode, what could go wrong?
Unpredictable.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of Dick Craig's Not Just Rock and Roll. That's me, I am your host, and we're here for our Memorial Day special this week on Not Just Rock and Roll. We're celebrating with you, and I believe some of you forgot really what Memorial Day is all about. So, well, here's Frank Sinatra to explain a little bit of it to you, because, like I said, some of his history, I guess, went over your head. You didn't go to that class. But watch, and Frank will tell you a little bit more. Watch, don't go away.
I just want to know why the gang war.
We don't like him. We don't want him in our neighborhood or going to our school. I've been living here as long as you.
What's he got, smallpox or something?
We don't like his religion.
His religion?
Look, mister, he's a dirt...
Now, hold on. I see what you mean. You must be a bunch of those Nazi werewolves I've been reading about.
Mister, are you screwy?
Not me, I'm an American.
Well, what do you think we are?
Nazis?
Don't call me a Nazi. My father's a sergeant in the army. He's been wounded even.
Wounded, huh? Say, I bet he got some of that blood plasma. Son, anybody in your family ever go to the blood bank?
Sure, my mother and my father both.
Uh-huh. You know what? I bet you maybe his pop's blood helped save your dad's life. That's bad.
What's bad about it?
Well, don't you see? Your father doesn't go to the same church as his father does. That's awful. Do you think maybe if your father knew about it in time, he would rather have died than to take blood from a man of another religion? Would you have wanted him to die? Would your mom want him to die?
No.
Look, fellas, religion makes no difference, except maybe to a Nazi or somebody as stupid. My dad came from Italy, but I'm an American. Should I hate your father because he came from Ireland or France or Russia? Wouldn't I be a first-class fathead? You guys remember Pearl Harbor? Why, the Japs socked us so it looked like we could never do anything about it. But a couple of days later, something very important happened. Close your eyes and let me tell you about it. Go on, close your eyes. All of you, I want you to imagine it. There was a battleship, the Haruna, and one of our planes spotted it. Do you know what it takes to bomb a battleship? It takes guts and know-how and teamwork. And our boys sure needed plenty of it, because that Jap was throwing up enough flak to get out and walk home on. But the pilot had only one thing on his mind: to get over that ship. And he did. And then the bombardier pushed a button and a 500-pound tornado smacked that Jap right in the middle. they sank it. And every American threw his head back and felt much better. The pilot of that ship was named Colin Kelly, an American and a Presbyterian. And you know who dropped the bombs? Meyer Levin, an American and a Jew. You think maybe they should have called the bombing off because they had different religions? Think about that, fellas. Use your good American heads. Don't let anybody make suckers out of you.
Yeah, on this Memorial Day, I want you to remember many fought and died for democracy and the Constitution, and, you know, some of you out there just aren't paying attention. And believe me, some of our ancestors are rolling in their graves at this point. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, hey, listen, really, everything's going to the dogs, isn't it? Well, let's go to Somerville and some dogs. Watch them, don't go away.
Untied dog in a telematic society ain't your average. Why must I feel like that? Why must I chase the cat? The dog in me.
Why must I feel like that? Why must I chase the cat? Nothing but the dog in me. Why must I feel like that? Why must I chase the cat? Nothing but the dog in me. Why must I feel like that? Why must I chase the cat? Nothing but the dog in me. Why must I feel like that? Why must I chase the cat? Nothing but the dog in me.
Why must I feel like that? Why must I chase the cat?
Nothing but the dog in me.
Why must I chase the cat?
Just walking a dog. Tommy dog.
Futuristic bow wow.
Yeah, Memorial Day. Yeah, we're celebrating now. Beginning, well, unofficial beginning of summertime, but you know, we're really, it's official after Memorial Day. The picnics on the weekends, get out the s'mores, and the hot dogs and burgers and all that good stuff on weekends. Because yeah, it is. It's rocking and rolling summertime over here for Not Just Rock and Roll. On our Memorial Day special this week, do want to remind you, I pledge allegiance to the flag, okay? Not a person, not the president. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. And we took an oath, depending on what your job is or was, took an oath to uphold the Constitution. Some of you are forgetting all about that stuff. I'll tell you. Here's Frank again. Explain what America is to us, right where it was. Watch, don't go away.
What is America to me? A name, a map, or a flag I see. A certain word, democracy. What is America to me? A house I live in, a plot of earth, a street, the grocer and the butcher, and the people that I meet, the children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races and religions, that's America to me. The things I see about me, the big things and the small, the little corner newsstand and the house a mile tall, the wedding and the churchyard, the laughter and the tears, the dream that's been a-growing for 150 years. The town I live in, the street, the house, the room, the pavement of the city, or a garden all in bloom, the church, the school, the clubhouse, the million lights I see, but especially the people. That's America to me.
So long, men.
Son of a gun.
Getting any clearer? Yeah. This is going to be a history lesson, I believe, this week on Not Just Rock and Roll, because, you know, don't forget like 9/11 and 1/6. Don't forget right here, okay? Veterans are not suckers and losers, okay? Really, people, come on, pay attention out there. Learn from your history. I mean, measles are coming back. What's next, okay? Polio, taking away women's rights to vote. Be careful out there. Hey, watch, here's some history. Maybe it'll remind you what people fought and died for. Watch, don't go away.
The United States entered World War I on April 6, 1917. A blindfolded President Woodrow Wilson picked the first draft number, and before it was over, 2 million Yanks would cross the Atlantic to fight in France against Kaiser Wilhelm's Germany. The U.S. had not fought a major war in 50 years. For American boys, many from small towns, it was the end of innocence and some of the bloodiest fighting the world has ever seen. Victory came at last in November 1918, and President Wilson himself came over to preside at the peace conference, only to meet with great disappointment. 116,000 Americans died in a conflict that did not live up to its promise as the war to end all wars and to make the world safe for democracy.
World War I was a tragic failure. Within a quarter of a century, most of the same nations would be fighting each other again all over the globe. But wars bring social change, and World War I opened for the placid women of America unprecedented channels to assertiveness.
Washington, February 1932, the bonus certificate. In the midst of a crippling depression, Congress overrode President Hoover's veto of a bonus bill. The bonus certificates went out, but could not be redeemed until 1945. The vets needed cash now. The Hoover administration was determined to keep government spending low. 17,000 angry, needy veterans descended on Washington. 6 months they lived in shanties and vacant government buildings. On July 28th, Hoover called out federal troops, led by General Douglas MacArthur, with arms and tanks, forced the men out. 2 veterans and 2 policemen were killed. The troops burned the veterans' camp. The only bonus the veterans got was the fare out of Washington. The country grew more and more impatient with Hoover's inability to handle the Depression. In November, just 4 months later, Hoover lost his bid for re-election.
Because of the necessity of diverting tankers to satisfy and fulfill the requirements of the Army and Navy, your government has found it necessary to ration gasoline on the eastern seaboard.
Commissioner O'Leary was on hand at a gas station in Washington to explain the different coupons.
Okay, it's an A card, 3 gallons.
The public was asked to cut down voluntarily or else, said Secretary of the Interior Ickes.
If this does not save enough gasoline, we necessarily must devise additional measures to cut down purchases by at least 1/3.
No gas? I don't get it. I don't get it at all. This is America. America. Look at that. We're practically floating in gas.
Oil wells right in our backyard. No gas.
The allowance for the average motorist was 3 gallons a week.
To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, where they're found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back.
The world stood on the brink of nuclear war, but in the end, the Russian ships chose to turn back with the missiles on their decks. President Johnson would set a record as an activist, progressive president who used his considerable parliamentary skill to get much of Kennedy's programs enacted into law, including the civil rights, the education and the Medicare bills. The Medicare bill, first proposed by and signed in the presence of one of Johnson's earlier predecessors, President Truman. In March 1965, the Reverend Martin Luther King led 2 dramatic marches from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. The marchers were met with violence at the hands of segregationist forces, but they reached their goal. As they massed in front of Alabama's state capitol on March 25, 1965, President Lyndon Johnson had already called for a new voting rights law.
Wherever there is discrimination, this law will strike down all restrictions used to deny the people the right to vote. It will establish a simple, uniform standard which cannot be used, however ingenious the effort to flaunt our Constitution. And if state officials refuse to cooperate, then citizens will be registered by federal officials.
There were demonstrations of support in many parts of the nation. The Voting Rights Bill was enacted into law on August 6, 1965.
I profoundly hope that the tragedy and the torment of these terrible days will bind us together in new fellowship, making us one people in our hour of sorrow.
So Nero played the fiddle while Rome burned. 47, out playing golf while America, well, you know what I'm talking about, right? Right. You know, like the cost of living. I tell you what, maybe you can afford one of these houses over here nowadays. We'll see. Peddler's Village, our arts community, not too far from here, over the border in Pennsylvania. And I think you're gonna like some of this stuff. Some of you guys that bang some nails in the garages for hobbies, you'll see what I'm saying. And we'll see you again next week from someplace fun, I'm sure. So until then, say later, dudes. It's Memorial Day weekend. We're celebrating the whole month of May, right? Right, and June maybe too. We'll see. Because, again, remember.
I'm afraid of Americans. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it.
All the day long, hopping and a bopping and a singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we really gonna rock tonight. Every little swallow, every chickadee, every little bird in the tall oak tree. The wise old owl, the big black crow, flap of their wings, sing and go, bird, go. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Slow. A pretty little raven at the birdman stand taught him how to do the bop, and it was grand. They started going steady and bless my soul. He out-bopped the buzzard and the oriole. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a-bopping and a-singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet, tweet, rockin' Robin, tweet. Slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight. Well, the pretty little raven at the birdman stand taught him how to do the bop, and it was grand. They started going steady and bless my soul. He out-bopped the buzzard and the oriole. He rocks in the treetop all the day long, hopping and a-bopping and a-singing his song. All the little birds on Jaybird Street love to hear the robin go tweet, tweet, tweet. Rockin' Robin, tweet. Rockin' Robin, slow rockin' Robin, 'cause we're really gonna rock tonight.
Oh, well, everybody's heard about the bird. Bird, bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. Bird is a word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. Well, a bird is a word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. Well, a bird is a word, oh, well, a bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh, well, a bird, bird, bird. Well, a bird is a word, oh, well, a bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh, well, don't you know about the bird? Well, everybody knows that the bird is a word, oh, well, a bird, bird. The bird's a word, oh, well, everybody's heard about the bird. Bird, bird, bird. The bird's a winner, winner, bird, bird, bird. The bird's a winner, winner, bird, bird, bird. The bird's a winner, winner, bird,
You're pushing too hard, or pushing on me. You're pushing too hard at what you want me to be. You're pushing too hard about the things you say. You're pushing too hard every night and day. You're pushing too hard on me. Well, all I want is to just be free, live my life the way I wanna be. All I want is to just have fun, live my life like I just begun. But you're pushing too hard on me. It's not just rock and roll. Whether it's live or on your TV screen, you never know what's next, because it's not just rock and roll.